You have to really, and it's all about who your brand is. That all, like, you have to really sit down and write down who you want your brand to be. It's almost like your brand is a person. So for us, we had very clear that we wanted it to be very Caribbean, hence the name Caribum. So that was the aesthetics side of it, more colorful, much more colorful than my personal brand, for example, which is more like lifestyle and neutral. So Caribum was going to be happier. It was going to be more inclusive, more ethical than most of the brands that we saw at the time for swimsuits that were similar. So you kind of like draw a graph and where you fit, in that graph of what exists right now and what's missing. That's how we created it.
Hi friends, it's Lya Mariella and welcome back to the Let's Get Candid podcast. I hope everybody is having a beautiful week and a good Thursday. I can't believe it's already another Thursday. This summer is just flying by. I don't know, maybe just me because I'm studying for the bar exam and week 5 is almost at a close, but it's getting real. Let me just say it is getting really real. But this week has actually been a pretty decent week. Last week was rough, but this week I decided to go study at the FIU Law Library, and that has completely transformed my bar prep experience. I have people that I'm surrounded by now, human interaction, but more than that, they are also going through it with me, and we're not like comparing horror stories or like talking about it. We're like trying to talk about anything else, but it's nice to know that like they get it. They understand how I'm feeling and we check in on each other, ask, lunchtime, want to go get coffee, want to go for a walk. And that's been really, really nice. And it's just good to have that support because if you haven't gone to law school yourself, like you really just don't know. And if the people you surround yourself with haven't done it themselves, it's just, they can understand to an extent, but like it comes to a point where they just don't really get it. So it's nice to know that I'm not alone, and I have a couple of close friends that I'm not studying with, but that have either done it in the last year or two or are doing it at the same time as me, and like having them for moral support is really nice too. So now that I have a support system around me this week, I'm doing a lot better, but quite a bit frazzled because in order to use your laptop on the bar exam, you have to have paid a laptop fee, and there's a software that you have to download, and you have to take a mock exam, and there's like deadlines for it. And I know I paid the laptop fee when I first applied to sit for the bar exam, my bar exam application, but I don't see it posted on my portal, and I haven't gotten the email that says like, here's your login information for the mock exam. I have until July 5th for the mock exam, but really freaking out because today was the deadline for paying the laptop fee to even use the laptop. If they didn't accept it or they lost it, then I have to handwrite the essays, which thankfully it's only 3 essays in Florida, so I could do it. I just hopefully don't have to, but my bar exam application did get messed up because my undergrad did fail to send my transcript the first time, and it was during COVID, and I wasn't notified, or I was notified, but I didn't know about it because they sent it to my school address and I was in Florida, and I missed the email correspondence of it as well. So that was on me, but also on UCF for failing to send my transcript, or it got lost in the mail or whatever. So by the time that I realized it, it had been a whole year almost. And so the laptop fee could have just gotten lost, but I'm now realizing this today, the day that it's due, that happened. So I'm going to call tomorrow and pray that it's there. But if not, unfortunately, I will be writing the essays on the Florida bar exam come July, which won't be fun. But you know what? It's all about mindset, and I will just figure it out as I go. Anyway, other than that, it's been a pretty good week. I completely forgot that I needed to record this intro for you guys, so if I sound really frazzled, that's why. It's almost 10 o'clock at night, so it's past my bedtime for sure. And I stayed up yesterday watching the new J-Lo documentary on Netflix called Halftime, so I really was trying to get to bed early tonight, but fingers crossed I will still get to bed before 11. But that documentary was absolutely incredible. 110% recommend. If you love JLo, you will love this. And if you don't like JLo, this will make you love her, because it really just explains her story and her career, and how even with all of the success that she's had, because you cannot deny that she's been very successful, she still struggled in the public eye. The public eye never really accepted her. It's because she's a woman and because she's Latina, and it's the same reason she's never gotten a Golden Globe win or an Oscar nomination, let alone win. And it was a really big deal when Hustlers came out, because it was all women directed, all women produced, women of color, minorities, and they still didn't get the Oscar nomination that they deserved. And so they talk a lot about that as well. And then, of course, going behind the scenes of her halftime performance at the Super Bowl with Shakira. And it was really difficult for them to put on the show that they did, that we all know and love. So it was really interesting to see the behind the scenes of that and really get to see the struggle. And as a dancer growing up and being a dancer from Miami, it was just really special to see a little bit of the dance world behind the scenes that I've missed so much in the last few years since I've stopped dancing. So 110% recommend that documentary. Even if you don't really like JLo, like, go watch it and then come talk to me. And let me know what you think. And if you're not in my Geneva group chat, then join the Geneva group chat. The link is in the show notes, and you can come tell me all about it. Or just shoot me a DM. Although I will be going off social media at the end of this week until the bar exam, so I won't be answering your DMs, but send them anyway, and I will answer them when I come back at the end of July, early August. And yeah, with that, it's just crazy to me how quick this summer has gone by, and what my life is like this summer. But I know it'll all be worth it. It's worth the investment. It's worth the sacrifice. And knowing that I'm not alone now truly does make all of the difference. With that, this week's guest is Lya Melendez, who is Lya Mariella on Instagram. If you don't follow her, I highly recommend. She's currently on the last leg of her month-long honeymoon world tour, which was so much fun. I'm living vicariously through her. She had her wedding in May in Cabo, and they've been all around Europe, and they went to the Maldives and they went to Dubai, and now they've been in like Paris, Italy, and now they're in London. And this is their last leg, and it's just been really fun to watch. But she talks a lot about, in this episode, her support system and how important that really is to her, and how she found her support system, especially being from Puerto Rico and coming to the mainland US when she was going to college. So really great episode. I'm really excited for you guys to hear. We have a lot of fun. I love getting to chat with Latinas. Last week's episode was with Laura Vila, who is also a Latina from Miami, and Lya is a Latina from Puerto Rico who originally moved to Arizona, then LA, and now she's in Dallas. And hopefully maybe one day soon she'll be closer to me in Miami or in Puerto Rico. So we talk a little bit about that. We talk about how she met her husband. I was going to give a hint, but I'll actually let you go listen to see how she met him. It's just a really great episode. And she's also the founder of Caribum Swim, which is her own swimwear line. And it's sustainable. It's very beautiful. It's eco-friendly. And we talk all about how she got it off the ground, really the intense work and dedication that you don't see behind the scenes to building a business from the ground up. I really enjoy this episode. I hope you guys do too. Really fast suck and sweet of the week. My suck of the week is just that I feel like time is flying by and I don't feel prepared. But I know I'm not supposed to feel prepared yet. I still have 6 weeks to go. So a long time to go in the grand scheme of things. It doesn't seem like it, but I know in Barbary days or in bar prep days in general, I have time still. So I'm gonna be okay. I just have to trust the process and be the middle of the pack. But the time is flying and it's a little worrisome. But the sweet of the week is that I found a really good support system. And I'm just really, really happy that I had the balls, like they say, to show up at FIU, even though I didn't go to school there, to study there. And it's only been day 2 of doing that, but truly it has made such a difference, the friends that I've made while I've been there. And I know that even though I'm not going to be doing traditional law and I won't be working with them in the courtroom or in the office, these are my colleagues. And it's nice to know that I will have a friend when I go to attorney events or just a new set of friends to, hey, let's go get happy hour with. So really excited for that, and just I know that this will all be worth it, And Lya and I talk all about how worth it these struggles sometimes can be. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy and meet Lya. Hi, Lya. How are you?
Hi.
I'm so happy to have you on. There's so much that we're going to talk about, but for people who don't know you, could you introduce yourself a little bit?
I'm so happy to be here. This is my first time ever doing a podcast, so extremely excited slash a little bit nervous. But a little about me, I'm a blogger, influencer. I like the word digital entrepreneur just because it sort of encompasses everything I do. But I also have a brand, a swimwear brand called Caribum. And I was previously a finance manager. I officially went full time with this digital entrepreneurship thing in July. So about 6 months ago.
I love that word, digital entrepreneur. I'm going to
I
start
know, it's
using
great.
that because I don't know how to describe what I do. Like, I'm like a law student, influencer, blogger, creator, podcast
Yeah,
host. That's just like
it's
a
like
lot of words.
content creator, blogger, influencer. I had it for the longest time. I had a little bit of a love and hate relationship with the word influencer.
I
Like,
still do. I
yeah,
hate calling myself that. Like, people, we'll talk about this too, but like with dating apps, you're like, oh, what do you do? And I'm like,
ugh,
I'm an influencer. And they're like, and I'm always scared of how they're going to react. Like, I've never had anyone be weird about that. Like, with like any guys or like my friends, like once I tell them, they think it's cool, but like I just get so scared to say that. So I love the digital entrepreneur. I love that.
I know. I used blogger for a long time because I didn't like the word influencer. But it's so funny you mentioned that because one of the things I've had a conversation with my fiance about this is when people think you go into influencing to try to look cool. And it's like the most uncool thing to do is to start as an influencer. I'm like, how do
So
you
uncool.
possibly think that we're here trying to be cool? Like, that moment, that first time of like grabbing the camera, your phone, and like talking to your phone is so awkward and uncool. Like it really takes like kind of like
Yeah.
balls to
You
start
can't,
a
yeah,
influencer.
you can't do this because you want the free gifts or
No,
the brands or like, no, like you have to really want it because there's so much that goes into it behind the scenes and it's really not glamorous at
no,
all.
especially the start. Like the start is the hardest part. It's anything but glamorous. So
Absolutely.
anyway, that's just something that I'm always wondering. Like, why do people think we go into influencing to, I don't know, show
Yeah.
off? Like, look at I'm live. Like, no, it's awkward. It's embarrassing at first, but once you get over it, like you actually, it's wonderful in my opinion because you can provide value and be
Yeah.
yourself, do something you love.
Yeah. I think it's a really cool job and a way to share your life, but it definitely is weird. So, kind of with that, before we get started, let's go beneath the surface. What's something that people wouldn't know about you from following you?
Oh, well, now at this point, if you just go ahead and like follow me and you've never seen any of my content before, there's like nowhere in my page that shows that I was a finance manager for 6 years. So that's how I was able to kind of like kickstart my influencing career, how I was able to afford it. Because I come from middle class family and right after college I was broke like most people. So I did work in finance for the last 6 years, like straight out of college. I graduated at 21. And yeah, that was like my career until I decided to go with blogging full time.
Yeah, we're going to jump into that. But so for people who might have picked up on it, you do have an accent. You are a fellow Latina. And
Yes.
I was born in the US, though. And I mean, technically, so are you, but you were born in Puerto Rico. What was it like growing up in Puerto Rico and then moving to the mainland US for college?
Wow. Well, Puerto Rico, like you said, it's kind of like a hybrid in between being foreign and not because it's technically a territory of the US, but it is also its own nation. It's sort of like a colony. I'm not trying to be controversial here, but and I do have an accent. My first language is Spanish. I grew up speaking Spanish with my family and everyone at school back home, but we have like regular cable TV in Puerto Rico, so I mostly learned English through watching Disney Channel
I
and
learned English watching Disney Channel too. Spanish is
it's
my
so
first
funny.
language.
Yeah, Hannah Montana, Miley Cyrus taught me how to speak English.
Dora for
Um,
me.
Dora. Yeah, but it still comes out like my accent used to be so thick when I first moved to the US, but it's gotten a lot.
My accent comes out when I'm home. Like, I mean, not as strong as you, but I have a Miami accent and it comes out a lot when I'm home, but you don't hear it as much especially when I'm at school or like online. So it's funny.
Mine comes out when I'm nervous, when I'm tipsy. But mostly, yeah, I think when I'm nervous, like, and I figured out early on that in job interviews, like my accent would get really, really thick. So that was kind of
That's
funny.
funny. I like it. It's cool. But yeah, what
Thanks.
was it like coming? So you went to school in Arizona. So not even like people would think Florida because it's right there. You went to college in Arizona. You studied finance, or actually, no, you studied science, right?
Yeah, so I went to college in Arizona because I didn't choose Arizona. Arizona chose me. That's what I like to say. I actually got a scholarship, full ride because of math and sciences. So I did really well in the math section of the PSAT, and Arizona offered me the full ride. So that was awesome. I was super excited. And I graduated with a degree in biology. But while I was in college, I worked the last 3 years and I worked in finance and real estate. So that's sort of how I got started. Like, I was working for like a housing company, like leasing. And from there, it was really easy to get it like a full-time job in the car industry and finance right after graduating. And it was really pretty good paying job for like a,
Yeah.
right out of college,
Yeah.
adult.
Can you talk a little bit about what that transition like was from growing up on an island, beach girl, to living in Arizona, working in finance and studying biology? Like, what was that really like?
It was honestly amazing. Like, I never looked back. I remember driving to the airport in Puerto Rico and being so scared. And then once I was in Arizona, I had a really great experience. Like, everyone was extremely nice. I made friends really quickly. First year was tough, just school wise because of the English barrier. But after that first year, I pretty much, like, it wasn't too hard. I mean, biology is never super easy, but
Yeah.
it was just an amazing experience. I love my college years. Like, I have very few bad things to say about that. But it was Tucson, Arizona, so I never saw myself staying there, if that makes sense. Like, I knew once I graduated, I would go to either, at the time I thought Phoenix or LA, and I ended up in LA. So
Yeah. So you got a job in the auto industry doing finance in a car dealership, or was it corporate in the car industry?
yeah, so how I ended up in LA, I'll start there. I had a boyfriend when I graduated college, and he got a job in LA, so I decided to move there with him. And I knew I would have a job interview with a pharmaceutical company, which is, within the biology field, in October. So I had a couple months to kill from like that summer after graduation till October. And during that time, I applied for a job in finance at an Audi dealership, and I was accepted, admitted. I don't know, now my accent is coming out. They took me in, and I thought I would only be there for a couple months, but in the car business they call it the golden handcuffs. Like, if you actually are good at
I've
what you
heard
do,
of this actually.
yeah, you start making really good money really quick. And I surpassed what I was going to make as a pharmaceutical rep, which is what I was going to do.
Which they
Uh,
make a lot of money. So that goes to show just how much.
yeah, as a finance manager in the car industry, especially luxury car industry, which I was lucky enough to just start there. Most people you have to start at like brands like Toyota or Mazda, but I started directly in Audi. And I had an amazing mentor that I met, luckily, like within a week of getting that job. So that kind of like skyrocketed my career, and I'm very grateful for it. I mean, it was unreal. Like, for me to come from like a middle class family in Puerto Rico and all of a sudden be able to afford this life and go after my dreams, which in the moment, I wanted to start a business. I wanted to start blogging. Actually, the blogging thing started because I wanted to have a platform for when I started a business, like to already have like an audience. But
Yeah.
ended up being that I loved blogging.
No, I want to get into how it all started and the business side of things and you starting your own business, but it's really cool just to see it goes to show just it's all who you know. Like, you went from Arizona to LA because of someone like a boyfriend, and that transition to LA led you to where you are now because it introduced you to people in the car industry and finance that gave you the resources to succeed in that industry that then gave you the resources to pursue what you're doing now. So it shows how it's all connected and how everything happens for a reason, and
It's
really
like
it's all
life
who you
happens.
know.
Yeah, and it's, who you know, but also what you do, to put yourself in that position. So,
100%.
in my case, when I met my mentor, it was actually an Audi training thing that everybody has to take if you're working for Audi, whether you are cleaning toilets or being the general manager. Like, if you work for Audi, you have to take that specific kind of like history training. And I was fresh out of college, really good at taking tests because, I was a biology major. So I basically did a favor for this higher up, finance director, who ended up being my mentor. And I took her tests, and she was doing other stuff. So I helped her. I became of use to her. And from there, like, we exchanged information. And the moment she had an opening for me, she called me because she remembered that, I was actually of value to her.
Yeah,
So it's all about, it's opportunity, but it's also preparation, and you have to be ready to provide
absolutely.
a service. Mhm.
I love that. So yeah, so you were working in finance, you're doing really well, you're very successful, and then you decide I want to one day have my own business, and in order to do that the way that I want to, I'm going to start a blog and building a platform. When was that, and how did you go about building your blog and starting your social media journey?
Sure. So within, I want to say, 3 months of living in LA, that boyfriend that I moved for, we kind of figured out that he wasn't going to stay in LA and things weren't working out. So he left. It was actually a very friendly breakup, and I was totally fine, on my own. But because I was on my own, and because I was finally making enough to sort of like have a hobby and do something on the side, I decided to post more, be more active on social media. It kind of came from also my desire to travel. So I love traveling always. My parents are the same way. Ever since I was small, like, we don't spend money. They don't spend money on like cars or expensive things, but
I don't
they
know
take
if that's a
me to travel.
Latin thing, but my parents are the same way. We drive like mid-road, mid-range cars. We go on nice trips. Like that's where
Yeah.
they spend their
My
money.
dad still drives like Toyota, my mom has a Nissan. They're like
Yeah.
they have their priorities straight, and travel and, like, culture has always been huge for them. So the moment that I had a chance, I was like on my own, my time off, I would pretty much go on like 3-day trips to Mexico, to Miami, to wherever I could. I would go for a weekend. I ended up going to like Hawaii for 3 days. Then I went to Bali for 6 days and did some crazy things in like my time off that was never extended. Like, I never had in a car business, like, you have to work weekends, so it's tough to get time off. But I managed to create really good content while I was out traveling, and brands started noticing, like, people started, following me. I started gaining like a little bit of, it was still, nothing huge, but just that's how it all started. It was
Yeah.
mostly through my travel content.
How did you shoot the content? Were you traveling alone and like tripod, or were you asking whoever you saw around to take a photo of you?
I ask, not usually not strangers, but if I am traveling with someone, like, usually it was a friend. I went with college friends to one, so I would have them do it. Honestly, like, I don't know, I figured out. Sometimes I would just put my phone on a rock and use like nature's tripods. That's what I like to call them. But yeah, like, pretty much. I never like to ask like complete strangers. Also, because I thought like most of them wouldn't be able to do a good job, but I would ask anybody that I know that's around me.
Yeah. So how long did it take for you to so did you start Instagram first or the blog first? When did those really take off that you were like, "Okay, I'm going to start a business?"
So it started with Instagram. And I want to say, I mean, I loved photography since I was in college. Even before I was traveling, I cared about like photo editing, and I try to make my Instagram pretty. It's just something I always like to do just for fun. So once I started traveling and putting more money into like what ended up being now my personal brand, it kind of came natural because I already knew, and I knew that that was something I enjoyed to do. And slowly I started getting better at editing, like looking up like YouTube videos and how to do all that stuff, and everything sort of led to um From there, so that was on Instagram. From there, eventually I realized that I needed to have a website. And I asked a friend, I think I paid him like $80 at the time to just help me create like a little starter website on Squarespace. And he did. And that was like, I like to call it Lya Mariella 1.0 because this one is like a 2.0. It's like the
Yeah.
actual blog like version. But yeah.
Yeah. I'm currently in that branding, like going from 1.0 to, well, actually, honestly, it's like a 2.0 and going to 3.0 because
3.0.
I started it in college and in 2018, but it was like very up and down for a while. And I want my blog to be like a secondary platform now. I'm really focusing on Instagram and podcasts and my own career, but I want that website to be nice and the landing page for everything that I'm doing. So I understand like the 1.0, the phases of it for sure. And how many years are you into finance now when you start, okay, I'm going to start a business? And how did you decide to start Caribum, which is a swimsuit and athleisure business?
Yes. So, well, it's mostly swimwear and beachwear, but we eventually do want to take it into athleisure and other things. So, Carry Bum started about almost 3 years ago. I want to say like 2.5 years ago. It was when I remember like I was in a coffee shop with my friend Anna, who is actually the daughter of my mom's childhood best friend. So, we know each other since we were born. We actually have like 3-month-old baby pictures together, but we weren't friends until she moved to LA. And once it all happened because of our moms. They were like, "Oh, she's in LA. Go hang out with her." You know how it goes. You make your mom a favor, like, "Ugh, mom,
Yeah.
I don't know this girl." Like, we hit it off. She's one of my bridesmaids now. Is one of my best friends, and she was not a graphic designer, a fashion designer for BCBG at the time. And we were at a coffee shop, and like, why don't we start something? I had already told her that my goal was to eventually start a company, a brand, and swimsuits was an idea that I had because I'm from Puerto Rico, and we always at the beach. I grew up in the beach. So she was like, we should look into it. And we started researching manufacturers. That was day one. We started researching manufacturers in Bali, and one thing led to the other. And it took us a little over a year, like a year and 2 months to actually launch it, which is not that bad. But yeah, we just stuck to it. The pandemic helped because we had more time in our hands to actually, get to work. But yeah, that's pretty
Yeah.
much started.
Yeah, no, I think it's unpopular to say, but I think the pandemic has helped a lot of people. It hurt a lot of people and it was very difficult, but it also allowed a lot of people to realize what their passions were and pursue them. So I think, everything, again, everything happens for a reason. So you are building Caribum, you are also building your blog and your Instagram, you're taking off on Instagram, and you're still working in finance. When did you realize like, okay, I can't do all of it. I need to pick one. How many years into finance did you like start putting away money to prepare for, okay, I'm going to pursue this?
So that's a two-part question. I'll start with when I started saving. So I actually started saving money the moment I started making money.
Smart.
To be honest, I was making more than I thought I would right out of college. And I was pretty frugal with like things like bills and my rent. So I was able to save money from the start. But when we finally decided to go for Carry Bum, my friend Anna and I started saving more. So I kind of like made a mental switch and started putting more money away. I also, the beautiful thing about finance is that it's commission based in a lot of ways. And the more time you spend on it, like the better you get. So I was making more money usually every month, like a little bit more, not every month, but more or less. And so I had a good amount saved. I don't want to say exactly how much.
Yeah, no.
But I had a good amount saved. Like I was probably saving like anywhere from $1,000 to $4,000 a month, depending on how good the month was at work.
That's
And
insane.
I was able to fund all of Carry Bomb on that, which was amazing because like there's no loans, no nothing,
Yeah.
just I'm the main investor. And what was the second question? Oh, when I decided that I couldn't do it all. So it was actually about 2 weeks after we launched Carry Bum. So we launched Carry Bum in May 2021. And in June, there was a day that I went to Puerto Rico for we went for a photo shoot, and also I was working from home, but still 8 hours a day in finance, 8 to 10 hours actually. So there was a day that I started at 7 a.m. with 2 collaborations with companies in Puerto Rico. Then I went to where we have our warehouse in Puerto Rico for Caribum and was there for another like 3 hours. And then I went home and I was supposed to start, my shift started at 4 p.m. at work in finance, and that went till 3 a.m. I was just, when I closed that computer at 3:30 a.m., just I was dead, like dead. I have been doing stuff since 7 a.m. up since 6:30, and I kind of realized that I wasn't going to be able to juggle it all for much longer, thanks to my amazing fiance. So our plan was for me to leave the job, the finance job, for the wedding, like right before the wedding. That way we could just go on our honeymoon, and I had enough, saved for that. But he knew that I was struggling, and he basically told me like he would take care of my part of the rent for until the wedding, until I got on my feet, really. And that was amazing. That's kind of like when I decided, like, I'm being very honest with everyone here. Like, we used to obviously divide rent and bills, and if it hadn't been for his help, I probably wouldn't have felt comfortable to leave so early on.
Yeah, I remember I was following you already because I started following you mid-pandemic, and I remember seeing that when you said you were leaving your job, and you didn't go into that much detail on Instagram, but you talked about like saving money so you could leave. And I remember you saying something about like it's just exhausting, like I can't do anymore, like I'm grateful that I have the opportunity to leave and pursue this. So I wanted to dig in a little bit to that and to go into your amazing fiance. How did you guys meet? Because it's really difficult. I'm in the dating world. It is very, very difficult to meet someone that you are compatible with, that you enjoy spending time with, but it's even more difficult to find someone as incredible as him who supports you in your dreams. Because I don't know if it's that we're Latina or what, we're just very ambitious women. We know what we want, we know what we deserve, and we're willing to do everything we can for it. And that is very intimidating. So how did you meet someone that supports you in that?
Dude, he is the biggest blessing that has come to me from, I don't know, the universe, God, I don't know, whatever. I
Does
must have
he
done
have
something
friends?
right in a long time. He doesn't have a lot of friends. He's kind of like an introvert. That's kind of funny that you say that. No, he has his friends, but he has a small circle. So we met on Bumble, fancy app. I'm sure you've heard of it. Um, I wasn't too present on Bumble, to be honest. I think I've gone my whole life like in 3 Bumble dates, and that was throughout a span of 3 years, so one a year. Him, on the other hand, was very active. So he had just moved to LA from Philadelphia. My friends laugh that that's one of the reasons we worked out, because you don't really move to LA for the people, to fall in love. It's just not the kind of crowd that LA attracts. But he works for himself, and he could work from anywhere, and he had family in LA, his sister and brother. So I met him when he had been in LA for 2 months. So I
Okay.
him.
Yeah.
And no, it was kind of funny. I was at a girls' night on a Wednesday. We had wine Wednesdays because we were all single, and I was laughing on my own. Like, we were watching a rom-com, and I was laughing, and I was the only one laughing. So I looked to the side, and all my friends are on the phone on Bumble, and that's when I was like, oh, okay, well, this is, everyone's doing it. Might as well just jump on the train. And the only person I swiped on was him that night.
That's
So
funny.
and I show my friend his picture, and he was like, he's all right. Like, not
Classic.
special. And I was like, really? I think he's really cute. And we ended up meeting about 2 weeks later. So we didn't do much. I said hi. I don't even know how that went. I would probably cringe if I saw the conversation now.
I was gonna ask you, do you know how it started? Because Bumble, the girl has to go first. And I think that is what intimidates a lot of people about being on a dating app. So how long had you been on Bumble? You said you've only been on a few Bumble dates. So like, how long had you been on it? He's the first one you swiped that night.
He was probably the first one I swiped. I had swiped like within 5 months of meeting him. And I think I re-downloaded the app because my girlfriends were on it. We were, just chilling, drinking wine, and they were on it and showing each other photos. So I just wanted to join in. And it happened to be that he popped up. I didn't say anything past like just swiping right and saying hi. And I think he responded the next day. He didn't respond that night. And it was about a 2-week period between that and our first date. A couple of things happened. I canceled on him. I think he might have canceled on me too once. And then there was one night, random, out of the blue, I got out of work at 7:30 p.m., which was early for me. I was usually there till like 8 or 9. And so I texted him. I was like, hey, I'm leaving work a little early. Are you down to meet up? And he said yes. And we met up at this bar. It was like an iPick bar, like a movie theater bar, right underneath his apartment building. So he really didn't sacrifice much to go on this
Yeah.
date with me. He walked down from his apartment and we were there for 2 hours. It was really nice date. I was actually very skeptical still, even after like that. I just, I'm not gonna say it was love at first sight just because I've had some bad experiences dating and I've had
Yeah.
some amazing first dates that went nowhere. So I was, like that perfect first date. And then you're like,
No, it doesn't exist. And I love how like there's so many things now with like dating rules and the girl shouldn't talk first, the girl shouldn't initiate this, and this. And you did it backwards if you follow the rules, which
mhm.
I appreciate because I don't like following those rules. So I love that, props to him. He didn't answer the first night, probably didn't even see it. He answers. And then, whether you canceled on purpose or because something came up and then he canceled, like it goes to show that he really did want to meet you because most guys would be like, oh, she canceled. Fuck this. Like, whatever. Like it showed that like you guys, like there was something there but you were willing to work for because you said it wasn't love at first sight, like there were things that happened for you guys to get to where you are now. So I love that because I think so many people on Instagram, and if you just follow on Instagram, it's like it looks like it's a perfect relationship, and of course none is perfect, but like you wouldn't know that it took these certain things to get there. So yeah, what was it like the early days of dating? When was this? How long ago was this?
So that was October 2017. That's when we met. So a little over 4 years ago. And like you said, nothing is perfect. No relationship is, great from the start. But I do believe that the start should be easy. It should feel effortless. Like if you're really having to fight really, really hard at the beginning, it's most likely gonna get harder as you go, as you get more comfortable with each other. So our start was pretty great. I want to say it was around the third day that I was like, oh shit, like I really really like this guy, and I think if we stopped talking, I remember the thought, I think if we stopped talking I would be really sad.
Yeah.
That's kind of like when I realized like, and I don't know, he was wonderful. My birthday was about almost 2 months after we met, and he took me to Cabo for the first time, just Friday to Sunday. We were in LA, so it's a quick trip.
Quick.
It's a
Yeah.
6-hour flight. So we went from Friday to Sunday. That was when he kind of asked me to be his girlfriend, and that was pretty much it. Like I remember calling my mom from Cabo and I was just on cloud nine.
That's so sweet. I love that. And yeah, I want that one day. But
You'll get it. A thing about when I met him, um, that I think played a big part was I I was pretty much set in not being in a relationship. Funny enough, like
yeah,
I
you can't be on a dating app hoping and expecting it
hoping
to
that you'll meet
happen.
the love of your
It
life.
won't
I was
happen.
not on that mindset. I was just on the mindset of like, I'm single, I'm enjoying my life with, my friends who are also single, my girlfriends at the time. We were all working really hard. Like I said, my best friend was a designer for BCBG, not an easy job at all, especially in LA with how competitive that is. Like I was in finance. I felt like I had my life together, but love wasn't my priority. I wanted to keep making money, keep saving to start my business. And the right person will see that and will be very attracted to that. Like if a guy gets intimidated by that, he's definitely not the one. So
100%.
it for Nikki, like he loved that. From the beginning, he loved that I was so independent. This kind of annoyed me, but our second date, we split the bill. I wasn't too happy about that, but just from the perspective, like I wish he had like tried harder to be like, oh, I'll take care of it. But it did in a way, like, I don't know, I felt like we both were contributing and we both wanted it, and it just I don't know,
I
from there.
agree. I think 100%. The guy has like if you intimidate him, like it's not worth it. Don't cry over spilt milk. It's not he's not worth it.
Right,
But
mhm.
the downside to that is that yeah, then like we're splitting the bill because we offer because we are independent, and then
Right,
they'll be
I
like,
did
yeah,
offer.
sure,
I
and
was
I'm
like,
like,
"Oh, no,
no.
we got this." Right,
I
and he was
want you
like,
to
"Okay."
say you're gonna handle it. So that's funny. But so you met in LA, you were living in LA. How soon into meeting him did you start Caribum, and when did you guys move to Dallas?
So, Caribum probably started about a year after, and but like I said, I did when we met, I told him about the blog. I already had my 1.0, Lya Mariella 1.0, and I told him that I was working on building an audience because I wanted to start a company eventually, and I wanted to have that platform so that once I launched my product, there were already people that trusted me and wanted to buy from me. So, he knew that from the start, but he also knew that like my finance job was my career and my main path, and at the time I had no intention of leaving that. I pretty much decided that I didn't want to do that for more than 5 years when I started Caribum.
Got it.
And we decided to move to Dallas. I'm going to jump to that question. Actually, during COVID, like we lived in the center of Wilshire Boulevard in LA, where all the riots and the looting was happening. So our building got all boarded up, all the buildings around us, and it was a stressful time for us. Just like seeing everything outside and not knowing what's going to happen. And we both worked from home at the time. We had really good friends that lived in Dallas that were on our ear like, move to Dallas, it's awesome, it's great, we love it here. These friends were not from Dallas, by the way. One was from New York City, the other one used to live in LA with us. So we decided, what the heck, like we work from home, if we're gonna try it out, this is the time to do it. And we just took the risk and decided to move. Neither one of us have been in Dallas for more than a couple days before we moved, so that was really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, the beauty is you're doing it together and you have the luxury of, having each other and you're figuring it out together.
100%. I mean, I it's like moving with your best friend. It's never, that scary. But it was I for somebody I thought I was going to live and die in LA. So I thought I was, or not in LA, but in California. Maybe we would raise a family down in San Diego or Santa Barbara, but we would for sure be in California forever. And so that was kind of like an impulse move. We're just like, let's just try it. We're young. We don't have kids. We can work from anywhere. We're spending a lot of money in rent in LA. So anywhere that we go, it will be cheaper. And that was another reason. We wanted to lower our expenses since we were all inside. It's not
Yeah.
like we're going out enjoying the city of LA. So yeah, that's pretty much why we moved, and it was the best decision.
Yeah. You guys are loving Dallas. Like your apartment is so beautiful. You're like killing it there.
Thank you. We love
Um
it here.
I've never been. I really want to go. But yeah, I've seen you guys too talk about like one day Miami, one day maybe you want to buy a house in Puerto Rico and have a second home there or make that your primary home.
Definitely want to have a home in Puerto Rico, and this has been my perfect ideal life for years before even I met Nikki, was to do 6 months in Puerto Rico, 6 months in LA or anywhere else. So the fact that we're moving towards potentially buying a place in Puerto Rico now in the next couple of years, and actually probably in the next year, and going, moving towards that, living there like 4 months out of the year or as much as we can is amazing. It's like that's
I
that's
want
sort
that for myself too. I want my primary home to be in Miami and then have a second home.
of home.
I don't know where, somewhere.
And especially once we have kids, like I think it would be really great for them to learn Spanish and be immersed in a different culture
Yes.
than just, be in the US.
Yeah, how does that for you? So that's a big important thing to me as well. I want my kids to know my culture and be raised similarly to me because growing up, I'm sure it's same for you growing up in Puerto Rico, growing up in Miami, like there's no place like home. And I'm grateful for that upbringing because I'm have experienced culture and traveling and food and the music, and just like I want my kids to know that. But Nikki is not Hispanic. How has that been, being with a partner who's not Hispanic, and hoping to have a family with them that will be multicultural? And for him coming into your family, coming to Puerto Rico, what's that been like?
So Nikki's even though he's an introvert, he's very likable. And my parents and my friends, I still haven't met one person in my life that hasn't gone along with him. So in that sense, it was easy. But like you said, there is a cultural difference. Like I had this idea back in the day that like I would be with a guy who would be dancing salsa with my parents, and Nikki's fun, but he
That's not
doesn't.
happening.
Yeah, that's not happening. So you have to understand, like, I mean, everyone should, if they're looking for a good relationship, you're never going to get 100% of everything. That also, I realized that wasn't a priority for me. Like my fiance having to dance with my mom is not something that like will make or break my relationship. But Nikki is very open-minded when it comes to, he loves travel too. And he's extremely respectful when it comes to other cultures, and it was easy. Honestly, it was never became an issue. He loves going down to Puerto Rico with me, spending time with my families. I love his family too, even though it's culturally different from mine. There's a lot of similarities in the way that he was raised and the way that what the priorities that his parents had when it come to just like raising their kids together and family time, and because family is huge in Latino culture. So he
Yeah.
comes from like a really united family.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's exactly how I feel too. Like it's funny because I always said like I don't want to date a Latino. I don't want like a male chauvinistic pig, like because it could go both ways. And
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want that. I want an American guy. But then I realized like, no, like I want them to either be immersed in my culture or enjoy it. And like,
And
of course, they have to be respectful of it. So I saw when I first like met you online, I was like, oh, interesting. Like I see a lot of myself and her. We're very similar. And she's dating a gringo and it's working. And I need to know how it's working. And like I want that. So I'm joking, but like, does he have a friend? Um, I'm totally kidding, but
I'll
I'm not, but like I'm kidding.
Oh, yeah, and it's so funny because Nikki actually doesn't look like a gringo. Like, when
No,
he
he
comes to
doesn't.
Puerto Rico, people start speaking Spanish to him, and he's like, "No hablo español."
Like, no, yeah, he doesn't look
He
American at
he
all.
looked Puerto Rican, yeah, so maybe that helped subconsciously, I don't know. No,
That's so
I'm
funny.
kidding. But it
That's
just
funny.
it wasn't difficult. Like, I wish my mom was here for her to tell you, like, how much they love having him around. Like, he's really fun. He's really funny. That's one of the reasons, like, one
Yeah,
of the
I love that you're getting to share more of him on your blog and social media. Like his little blog posts are so cute,
Oh
and
my
it's
god,
cool
he's so
seeing
good.
him come into it. And I joke that I don't want my partner to be a part of any of my platforms, but like it would be cool every once in a while to have him participate similarly to that. So I think that's super cool.
He
And
is honestly a better blogger than I am. Like, he was an English major in college too, so he's really good at writing, and when he gets into it, like, he really enjoys it. Right now, he has like 2 blog posts already written that I
yeah,
haven't shared. I don't even have 2 blog posts, like, already.
that's so funny. I want to
So
get back into blogging. I need to get I just don't have enough time to do everything I want to do, but I want to write more blog posts because I
it's
really
so
love it.
tough with Instagram too, because like, you feel the necessity to be constantly creating content that's immediate, so, like, photos, stories, so sitting down to write a blog post, that's what I've found most challenging recently. I feel like I don't have time to do it,
Yeah.
because Instagram and TikTok and the actual content creation part, and the, Caribum, the
Yeah.
business.
So going back to Caribum and balancing it all, I got a couple questions about starting Caribum and starting a brand. You said you were the one to put the money into the business. What's a good budget for starting a brand? And like talk a little bit about the designing, purchasing, marketing PR, like that part of it, like the business side of starting a business, and how much money did you put into it?
So I'm going to be super transparent. I think total I ended up investing 21,000 in Caribum. So I would say around 20,000 is a good budget to have to start. We started, small. We wanted to make sure we stuck to slow fashion. So we didn't want to do too much like overproducing either. And that was the budget that worked out for us. That being said, so it started with Anna and me, and we added our friend Gabby, who's amazing at marketing. She's also an influencer in fitness. So we had three brains and three people working towards the brand, which we weren't paying. I wasn't paying them. So the 20,000 was just to start the brand, and then each one of us had about 33% ownership on the company. So I hope that answers that worked out for us. Things that we didn't want to go cheap on was like fabric. So we wanted to make sure that we were sustainable, that our fabrics were all ethically made. And same with our factory, that it paid people fair wages. So you could probably do less than 20,000. I've heard people starting businesses with like 5,000 to 10,000. But once we had like our priorities listed, that's what it took us.
Yeah. So do you think starting that priority list is like comes first?
It's huge. Yeah. You have to really, and it's all about who your brand is. That all, like, you have to really sit down and write down who you want your brand to be. It's almost like your brand is a person. So for us, we had very clear that we wanted it to be very Caribbean, hence the name Caribum. So that was the aesthetics side of it, more colorful, much more colorful than my personal brand, for example, which is more like lifestyle and neutral. So Caribum was going to be happier. It was going to be more inclusive, more ethical than most of the brands that we saw at the time for swimsuits that were similar. So you kind of like draw a graph and where you fit, in that graph of what exists right now and what's missing. That's how we created it. This was at the very beginning, like before doing anything like legal into like the LLC or even starting designing, making the actual designs. But
yeah, I could go into so many questions about this, but people really wanted, like, about the legal side of it especially, but people really want to know what your design process is like, and how do you build a successful marketing campaign for your business, and the marketing side of running Caribum, and the designing, what that process is like.
So in the beginning, we had a night. Anna and I don't think Gabby was in there yet in the part of the group yet, but we pretty much printed a bunch of Pinterest photos and inspiration, and we created a physical mood board for what we wanted the brand to be. So that was initial like inspiration, and just we wanted to visualize like the brand, and that really helped. And we kept that for I think Anna might still have it actually, but we had it in everything we did for the first year for sure. And then marketing wise, we added, I'm obviously an influencer. We added Gabby to the team, which she went to school for graphic design and a little bit of marketing. So she's amazing at that. And she's an influencer herself. So most of our marketing was done through influencing because we know the industry and we have friends and we are influencers ourselves. We still haven't gone into things like Google ads, or really we haven't spent in marketing outside of influencing, just because that's the devil we know.
Yeah, totally.
But eventually we probably will if we want to expand.
How did you start the design process? Like, how did you, like you said, you wanted ethical fabrics. Where did you look for these fabrics, finding a warehouse, finding manufacturers, what that process was like?
Sure. So initially it was Google searches, and we found this manufacturer in Bali that just had, we found a couple of swimwear brands that we knew of that got their designs there, that got their actual product there from there. And last minute, right before we signed with that manufacturer, we found out that there was a Puerto Rican girl who had her own manufacturing in Bali. So that was amazing. And then she lived in LA. So we got to meet with her in person, speak Spanglish with her, and we decided that that was a better fit for us. And she provided, obviously, we asked, do you have what kind of fabrics do you work with? Like we were trying to do more ethical, sustainable fabrics, ideally made from plastic water bottles. We had done the research. It helped to have Anna because she is a fashion designer, so she knows what questions to ask. She knew like initially. And yeah, they had everything we needed and more because they spoke Spanish and
No,
English
it
and
was the perfect fit.
it was the perfect fit. Yeah.
It's personality, culture, the vibe, all of that has to match.
And it
Absolutely.
was like a blessing because it literally came the week that we were about to sign with the other Bali company, which communication from LA to Bali isn't ideal and by any means. So I imagine somebody that doesn't know how to speak great English. It was tough, and we were a little scared about that. So it just happened to fall in our laps, and we took it.
Yeah, everything happens for a reason. I think that's like the theme of this episode. And what's it like running a business that is based out of, well, you're based in Dallas, the business is based in Puerto Rico and Bali. How is that logistically? Like, how does that work? How do you guys run it?
Not gonna lie, it is kind of a nightmare. Um, Especially because when we started Caribum, the three of us, Anna, Gabby, and I were in LA. And I moved to Dallas. Gabby moved back to Puerto Rico. Anna stayed in LA. And then our manufacturers in Bali. So that was a little tough. I want to say the toughest part is called well, the shipping from Bali to Puerto Rico is tough. And that's where we have our warehouse. That's where we keep all of our inventory. So moving, looking into the future, we probably want to eventually try to get our stuff made in Puerto Rico. We have a lot in the plans and
I'm not, I don't work there. And I'm like, I have plans for you. I'm like, I need to stop thinking
yeah,
about this.
no, but I'm not gonna lie, it's been tough. That's probably the hardest thing. If I had to pinpoint one thing, is it's the distance between the manufacturer and where our warehouse is and delivery and I say hardest too because it's very expensive. So we don't want to be selling a product that's truly out of reach for up for professional girls in their 20s and
Yeah. And
you
that's
know
the thing too. Like you look at nowadays, bathing suits are so expensive,
so
and you
expensive.
look into
We don't
what,
want to do that, but
yeah.
it's tough.
But even looking at your prices, like they are a little bit pricier, but then you look into what goes into it and like, oh, okay, this makes sense.
And we didn't want to cut corners when it came to, the fabrics and the quality. It would be much cheaper to, use other fabrics that are not sustainable, but
Yeah.
we wanted to stick to who we are. So, and it's been tough with inflation, it's really affected that
Yeah.
too. Like if you look at the prices from our first collection, they are significantly lower than the second, but that's just life. Everything's
Happens.
going
Yeah.
up.
I would love to like maybe do a second episode where we talk more about the business logistics of it and the legal side and like the actual
100%. I would love that.
talking, digging into that because I think that is so fascinating. A lot of people with the pandemic and following their passions, I think so many more people are going into building their own businesses, whether it's social media or a service or a product. And I think a lot of people are really interested in that aspect of it. So I would love to chat with you more about that sometime. But in the middle of planning or running all of this, the business side, your Instagram, moving, setting up a new home, you guys got engaged and you are planning a wedding and you're planning a destination wedding. So can you talk a little bit about the engagement and then how you decided to do a destination wedding?
Course. So we got engaged almost 2 years ago now. It was July 2020. And when it happened, well, after it happened, I knew that I wanted to wait to have a wedding. I didn't want to rush into it. I was never the kind of girl that dreamed of a big wedding or like that wasn't a day that I had written down since I was a little girl, that just wasn't me. And I always thought that I would get married in my 30s. So I was already ahead of schedule in my in my head. So we waited probably almost a year till we started planning. And I looked into getting married in Miami. I looked into getting married in Dallas and Cabo because that's where we got engaged. And that's also where we went on our first trip. And Cabo was more affordable than Miami and Dallas. And also, it just, for me, it was more sentimental and it would
Yeah.
have been like a prettier, more me vibe or aesthetic. And it just it was the first month of planning the wedding was the most stressful, and then ever since it's just become easy. Like once I got a planner, it really like became almost like second nature. It hasn't been that hard. I think I cried once. I will say that at the very, very beginning, because it can be overwhelming to try to see through everything like over a year before. But now I'm at the point where I am ready. I'm excited.
It's
I
soon too. It's
can't
coming
wait.
up.
I know it's 3 months, so it'll be May 8th. Yeah, and everyone's excited too. Like everyone that's coming, my family, my siblings, Nikki is very
You better be excited.
important, right? Yeah.
But yeah, no, and I love how you said that too. Like I mean, you guys got married mid-pandemic, so that definitely was like, all right, we're gonna wait, and you are able to wait, because life really wasn't happening at that time either. But just it definitely gives you that peace of mind that like I don't have to worry about this right now, and I can still focus on one, enjoying being engaged, and two, we're still living our normal lives. We're running our businesses and we're building our futures together now. And I think that's so special to have that. We're like, all right, we're just going to take it slow. We're not rushing into this, because I feel like a lot of people get engaged. It's like, oh my God, gotta start planning the wedding. Like the wedding has to happen now. But it's like, you guys love each other, and you're making a commitment to spend your life with each other. And the wedding is just a celebration of that. It's not this big thing. And so you're putting your energy in, I think, and I think you would agree, better uses of your time and energy than just the wedding. But you're still making it special for the two of you because it is a celebration of you guys. So how did you find a wedding planner? How did you like the process of actually planning it? You said like it hasn't been as bad for you because you had a wedding planner. How did you find one?
So I pretty much did all the research on Instagram because, that's what I know best. I had a few hotels that I liked, and I went to their pages and to their tagged photos. This is something I suggest anybody, trying to do research on Instagram does. And I found two tagged wedding planners that I really liked. And I contacted both and ended up going with, the best fit. So I pretty much did my research on Instagram when it came to finding the planner, and then from there, I actually hadn't decided what hotel I wanted. I'd first picked the planner, and then I had her help me out with that, and that was great because she obviously works in all of these places, very knowledgeable, like is always there. She's there presently, so I got to hear her opinion on budgets too, like which one would fit better with what we wanted, and a smaller wedding and more. I didn't want a very resorty wedding, if that makes sense, even though it was kind of like a beach wedding. I didn't want like a big resort event. So we found the perfect kind of like boutique, but also grand. The Cape is the hotel where we're gonna get married, and it was in my top two from the start. So that just worked out perfectly.
Yeah. I'm so excited to see the pictures, and just you guys went to Cabo and did the tastings and like figuring out the logistics, and you shared that trip, and it just looked so incredible. And I've never been to Cabo, and now I'm like dying to go there
That's amazing. Yeah, you have to go for
one
sure.
day.
Cabo
One day.
is it's a special place. Yeah. But I didn't go. I mean, I didn't go till I went with Nikki. And that's crazy because Cabo, I went to school in Arizona, and everyone used to go to Cabo for spring break. And you probably, know Cabo is like a pretty popular destination, but to me it's a more recent thing too.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I think growing up in the Caribbean, that's where we go instead of
exactly.
Mexico.
Yeah. So I had been to Cancun, Tulum since I was little. So to me, Cabo and the west coast of Mexico is more exotic because
Yeah.
the east coast is more like home, more like Puerto Rico, greener. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm so excited to share everything, to finally like show everyone the dress, the shoes. I can't
I'm
wait.
so excited because you and I have a very similar style, and just your aesthetic, and you're a few years older than me, but I like because we grew up very similarly, I think, and just like our goals are very similar. I see myself a lot in you, and I look up to everything you're doing. I'm like, I want to do those things. Like
Thanks.
I want to do that, like what you're doing. And it's cool seeing you live your life and share it with the community that you've built online. And it's hard, but you're choosing to share it for everyone, and it's inspirational. So I love that.
It make me cry.
It's so special getting to see, like I told you at the beginning, I think off air, like seeing a fellow Latina doing everything that you want to be doing, and knowing that it can be done, and there's people that have done it before you, and you're paving the way. So it's really, really special.
That is my goal. I didn't come from, I didn't have that, that stepping stone. I didn't come from money. And I do want people to see what I've done, which, I still have a lot to do, but to know that it's possible, to know that you can go for it, to know that it really is just putting in the time, the work, and trying to enjoy the ride as much as possible. And, you don't need to come from money to live a wonderful life and to make your dreams come true, basically.
Absolutely. I love that. And I think that's a great place to end, but we will definitely do a part 2 talking about, I want to ask you about like budgeting tips and finance tips, because you've been able to build this life because your career in finance allowed you to, and because the tools you learned in your career allowed you to create a budget for yourself and savings and all of that. And also the business side of starting a business of your own, Caribum. So we'll definitely do a part 2 on that. But I loved having this conversation. I can't wait to see your wedding. Hopefully next time you are in Miami, we can meet, or once I graduate and I'm not in school anymore, I can go anywhere, and like maybe like we'll definitely meet up, maybe Dallas, maybe Cabo.
100%. If you come to Dallas, you have to let me know.
I absolutely will. Where can everyone find you? Plug yourself. I'll link everything in the show notes so they can go find you.
Yes. I've been putting a lot of eggs in the TikTok basket recently, but most of my content's on Instagram, my blog, lyamarielablog.com, and caribum.com. That's where you can find all the beautiful pieces that we've designed with so much
Could we
love.
do a discount code for anyone who's listening on Caribum?
Yeah, I would have to set it up, but I'll contact you.
Okay, cool. Let me know, and I'll put, if we get a discount code, I'll let you guys know in the intro or outro, and I'll link it in the show notes for everyone.
I'll gift something to you guys for sure.
Yay! Thank you so much for coming on. This meant so much.
Thank you for having me.
I'm listening back to all these episodes as I'm editing, and I just keep getting the vibe that I'm really into the happy hour, girl chat, chill vibes lately, and I hope you guys are enjoying them too. I love the interview style, but I don't like to do it super formal, and I like to just be a lot more interactive and kind of let the conversation go where it goes. But this one especially, it felt like we were really together, like having a fun, crazy conversation. Two Latinas just yelling, screaming, having so much fun. And I really hope you guys got that vibe and you enjoyed it. And if you're not already following Lya, definitely go check her out. Go check out her business, Caribum or Caribum. Like she says, any excuse I get to use my Spanish, I'm gonna do it. And I'm a Caribbean girl too, so gotta represent, gotta support. But thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let me know what kind of format for episodes you like in the future. I'm currently on a recording hiatus, but when I come back from the bar exam and begin recording new episodes, I will definitely take all the feedback into account and give you guys the best episodes I can. There's so many exciting people I want to keep having conversations with, so stay tuned for more. But I hope you guys are really loving the podcast lately. I know you guys really loved last week's episode, which means so much to me because it's such a fun and special episode to me as well. And I want to just keep creating the content that you guys want to see. So please leave a rating and review. Let me know what you like. Let me know what you don't like, what you want to see more of. Share with your friends. Screenshot as you're listening and tag us so we can share it with a friend. It's the best way to grow the show, and I just want to keep growing the show, to keep making connections with new people. The community that this podcast has brought me has been incredible, and I wouldn't be able to do the podcast if I didn't have that community, and I wouldn't be able to bring you guys episodes like this with so many fun tidbits, from dating to culture to travel to businesses to social media, to so many other things. So I'm really grateful for this podcast. I can't believe it's been 9 months. Today is 9 months of the Let's Get Candid podcast, which is absolutely crazy, and I can't wait to begin recording more episodes for you guys and keep bringing you incredible candid conversations, because that's what this is all about. So thank you guys so much for listening. Go follow Lya, go check out the Geneva home, go check out Caribum, go connect with us. That's the best part about the podcast. It's 10:36, so I will be able to make it to bed before my 11 p.m. bedtime, which I'm really happy about. I hope you guys all have a beautiful weekend, and thank you guys so much for listening. As always, I will talk to you all next week.